Good afternoon. Thanks for joining What's New with Social Security with RIA Advisors. I'm Danny Ratliff here with Richard Rosso. We do appreciate you spending your lunchtime with us today. So we're going to jump right in with a little bit of housekeeping. Number one, this is all purely educational, no specific recommendations. So keep in mind that you have a specific question. We're going to answer questions at the end, but we really want to run some really in-depth numbers or have somebody do that. So take this as purely educational. We are Clarity Financial, doing business as RIA Advisors, registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission as a registered investment advisor. And let's jump into what we're going to talk about today. So what's new with Social Security? Lots of questions. This is a very well-attended webinar historically for us. A lot of people with, always wondering what's the best way to claim and what has changed. And so this year, today, we're going to talk about the things that have happened this last year that impact you today, which 2023 cost of living adjustment. What did that look like last year? Huge cost of living adjustment compared to what we've historically seen. We'll talk about that, what the earnings test means. So Social Security does have a retirement earnings test if you take distribution or you start taking your benefits pre-full retirement age. We'll talk about what that means as well. Social Security taxes. You are taxed on Social Security. To what extent depends on what type of income you have. Medicare premiums, the famous IRMA charges. This is one that I feel like, Rich, a lot of people don't realize it until they're impacted by that. So we'll talk about what you can do to potentially mitigate that. And if you do encounter those charges, maybe you've had some instances where you can actually petition to have those reduced. So Medicare dates, so a little bit about Medicare on here. Status, this is a big one, Rich. We hear this all the time. What is the status of Social Security Trust Fund? When is it going out? When is it going broke? And how does that impact my claiming decision? So we'll talk about that. And then all the different claiming strategies.
We'll be talking about the trustee report tomorrow on the radio show as well. So the slide that we're going to talk about, obviously it's cost of living adjustment, and it's been very nice. So in October of every year, Social Security Administration goes through these bunch of numbers, and that's the rate of inflation over the past 12 months. So that's the eagerly awaited number. This year, for next year, I'm thinking probably closer to 4 to 5%, Danny. Still good, but not like it was.
No, certainly not like it was, but we'll take it anytime that we can get any help, especially in this inflationary environment. You got to take every bit that you can.
Yep.
Checks have gone up this last year, hopefully going up again next year, should be going up next year. New earnings test threshold,
right,
and then higher Social Security wage base. Now, what does that mean for most people?
Right. So we're going to talk about the maximum amount of earnings on which Social Security taxes are assessed. So the adjustment for 2023 was 8.7%, not too shabby. So if your current benefit's $800, you're getting an extra $70 a month. So the higher your benefit, the higher your COLA. So if your benefit's $3,900, which is that's you as a maximum earner, and you claimed your benefit at $70, then you're going to get $300 per month. Not too shabby.
So this next slide gives you a little bit of perspective on what we've historically seen since 1988. So the actual historical COLA is 2.6%. And the trustees' projected cost of living adjustment is 2.4 moving forward. So that would suggest that they think that, hey, inflation is going to come down. They're going to be able to fight this. That's anybody's guess. We're proved just yesterday with stickier CPI numbers than anticipated. That core CPI is not coming down nearly as quick as most people had expected, but we'll likely still get a little bit higher number like we've seen here recently. But you can see these numbers, which I think this gives a pretty good perspective on overall what we've seen over the years.
Yeah, in our planning software, we use 2.4 to 2.5%. I didn't see any reason to change it, only because I don't see these bigger or these more attractive numbers as something permanent, even though I don't think they were transitory either, right? There's something in the middle called permatory, and that's what these numbers were. So again, but the beauty of Social Security income is it is cost of living adjusted. Mostly, and we love pensions, but a lot of times pensions aren't. So Social Security is one of the only inflation-adjusted guaranteed income or longevity risk insurance that you have. That's out there.
So let's jump into the earnings test. This is one of the bigger topics I think I've been addressing a lot more recently, Rich, as well. in the sense of if you retire early or you begin taking, let's say you're not retired, this is really more important if you're still working or still have some type of earned income. If you have some type of earned income and you take your benefits prior to full retirement age, then you could potentially have benefits withheld. So in 2023, that threshold is $21,240. So for every $2 earned over $21,240, they're going to withhold $1 in benefit. Now, if you make more, so that's all the way up to $56,520. Once you get above that amount, for every $3 over that amount, they withhold $1 in benefit. Now, I have also seen people, and I know you have as well, Rich, where they started Social Security early. They thought, you know what, it was an emotional decision, didn't necessarily need it, but thought, I'm going to get all I can out of it. We're going to start this early. And they ended up having all of their benefits withheld because they had other income still coming in, deferred compensation, or just regular income because they were still working. And they had to write a check back for all the dollars they received. Now, the benefits are only withheld, so they're going to adjust your benefit once you reach full retirement age and give you some of that money back over time. But they're not writing you a big lump sum check. It's going to be, your benefit will go up a little bit based on the amount that's been withheld over the last several years, and they're going to pay that out to you through the rest of your life. But you will lock in a discount by taking it early.
Right. Yeah, we'll talk about this more. I mean, again, people take Social Security early for a myriad of reasons. Health is a reason. Some people that work manual labor jobs at age 62, they just can't do it. Some people will decide, hey, I'm going to retire, but I'm going to work a part-time job. In that case, you want to work with a financial advisor who actually understands Social Security and help you understand how much you can earn without breaching the threshold. And to Danny's point, yes, you are going to permanently cut your benefit by about 25%. We're going to get more into this, but you're also going to cut it for your spouse. So if you have a spouse who has not paid in, did not earn as much as you did, then you're also cutting your spousal benefit, and that's also could be a problem. So you got to be very aware of this earnings test. We have a lot of people that get this information from their brokers saying, "Listen, take it now because it's going to go away," and they're not aware of the earnings test. So while we're on the earnings test, just take a moment to explain the monthly earnings test. So this comes into play the first year you apply for Social Security benefits. So say you're under full retirement age, so you're 62. You file for Social Security this year and you continue to work. If you earn more than $1,770 per month, your benefit's going to be withheld. Then next year, you're going to be subject to the regular earnings test, right? Because you have a full year, and that'll be the $21,240 adjusted for next year's COLA. So, our recommendation generally is to stop working to apply for Social Security, so you don't even have to worry about dealing with it. But again, we're going to talk about, individual circumstances. Like I said, you're going to work a part-time job and be cognizant of the threshold. There's legislation out there right now to raise those thresholds above these numbers to, I think the first threshold is going to be well over 31 or
30,000.
Yeah. So, and I think that makes sense because even if I'm age 62 and say I can't work a manual labor job, maybe I can work another job, but it's just not going to bring as much money as I did before. It would be nice to know that my Social Security is not going to be withheld. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So moving on to payroll taxes. So one thing I think that everybody realizes is that while you're working, you are paying into Social Security. So the maximum earnings subject to Social Security has gone up from $147,000 to $160,200. And so this is one of it's a good thing, but obviously with cost of living adjustments going up, this is one of those areas that this is nice to get, but how many people are actually hitting that 160,200? Not everybody. So if you are, you have the luxury of making much more than that, well, then you'll notice you probably get a pay raise sometime throughout the year where you actually see that you're no longer contributing to it. But it's right now for this year, it's over 160,200.
Part of the way that I think Social Security could be adjusted is that payroll tax, so that limit of 160 sort of gets pushed away. There's talk of that now, or raising it dramatically. There's a lot of fight going on with that because generally speaking, on a dollar-for-dollar basis, lower income workers get more from Social Security as a percentage of income than wealthier people. So wealthier people are paying there's argument by Bill Reckenstein and some others that we follow, our Social Security gurus, that, hey, you're gonna, if you just take the cap off, then those people making, say, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, they're paying into the system, but they're not going to anywhere get that money back. And it's really to supplement the lower class or lower income class workers. So, there's an argument going on, but we'll see. But remember, it's a pretty good investment in the form of inflation adjusted income, like I said, that lasts for life. So the more earnings you have, the more Social Security taxes you pay, the higher your benefit's going to be. And again, as long as you're working, your benefit will be adjusted. So so the so here's how it works. If you're an employee, right, you'll pay 6.2% in payroll taxes on your earnings. Your employer will pay the same amount. Now, if you're self-employed, you're paying both. You're paying both sides at 12.4%. So the Medicare tax also did not change. It's 1.45% on all earnings. 2.9 if you're self-employed, because remember, if you're self-employed, you're paying both sides. That's why sometimes you got to talk to your tax person and say, listen, whoa, do I form a corporation? What do I do? I don't want to pay both sides of this. How do I pay myself so that I minimize paying so much, bearing the brunt of this? So, you want to speak to a really good tax specialist to make that happen.
Same numbers here, basically maximum Social Security tax. So for each year in 2023,
that's the maximum Social Security tax. And self-employed, you're going to see what you're going to pay versus one versus the other.
So essentially, $9,932 if you're an employee. If you are self-employed, $19,864. So pretty basic math here. You guys understand the numbers. Going on to the taxation of Social Security benefits, I think this catches a lot of people by surprise as well. They're like, what? I got taxed on this already. When they put the benefits aside, now I'm being taxed here when you receive the benefits. And this may be another area, Rich, that we see that, you mentioned eliminating that income threshold. They could also say all benefits are taxable. So currently, if you're married filing jointly, if you make between $32,000 and $44,000, you're going to have up to 50% of your income or Social Security is going to be subject to tax. If you make over 44, 85% of it will be taxable. So not the full amount, but a portion of it will likely always be taxable. Just it's very tough to get under those thresholds, especially in this day and age. So keep that in mind. Single number's a little bit smaller. It's under 25,000. You pay zero in Social Security taxes. 25 to 34, it's up to 50%, and then over 34,000, it's up to 85%. Now, here's the kicker. Now, this is one I think that catches people by surprise as well, Rich, is that what they look for. So this number, this word here, provisional income, is a little bit different than most, right? So here's how they calculate and get that number to see how much the Social Security is taxable. It's your adjusted gross income plus 1/2 of your Social Security benefit, plus any tax exempt interest. So if you guys have municipal bonds that are kicking off tax-free income, well, you won't be taxed on it, but they're gonna bring that number into this to include that or count that for your provisional income, which is how they come up with how much your Social Security should be taxed. That's a tricky one. I'd love to meet the guy that made that one up.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I wonder who did that. Who's the crazy formula person behind that? And so keep in mind that provisional income and how this works. Just go back to that slide for a minute, Danny. It's like a step-up marginal rate. It's not like, okay, from 32 to 44,000, I'm at about to 50% is taxed. Then
correct.
Over 44,000, it's say I make 45,000, right? Then that I'm not getting taxed 85% of my benefits, not getting
of
taxed.
Everything. It's only the amount over 44. Yeah, good point.
Right. So keep that in mind. People go, oh my God, all my benefits are taxed at 85%. I'm like, no. You made 50.
It's the amount over that amount, correct.
So $6,000, right, is going to be taxed up to 85% of your Social Security. So keep that in mind. Again, it's very tough. I'll give you all a quiz on lunch if you're not too groggy from lunch. I remember when we used to have nice martini lunches. Those were fun. Life's different now. We don't do that anymore. But they're like, yeah, sure, Social Security taxes for everybody. So keep this in mind. When you look at these numbers, there is income that would not be subject to any of this and not fall into the provisional income formula. So what is that, right? I mean, my IRA, if I take IRA distributions, it does. That falls into provisional income. So what if I have Roth? What if I'm taking distributions from my Roth? Doesn't count in provisional income. See, the power of Roth IRA is when you're told that you need to fall into the lowest tax bracket, because that's when Roth is beneficial, doesn't include the fact that you're taxed on Social Security and looking at your overall marginal tax rate, which could be much higher because of taxation of Social Security benefits. Also, if you're using a permanent life insurance policy and you're doing policy loans as a way to supplement your retirement income, that also is not included in provisional income. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, tax exempt interest is included, but yet Roth distribution income isn't.
No, that also really good points on how do you mitigate that, potentially get around having to pay those additional taxes on distributions there or your Social Security benefits. So lots of things to think about.
When your tax advisor says you're in the lowest tax bracket, you have to ask the question, does that include taxation on Social Security? How much higher has my marginal rate gone up because of the pro-rata portion of my taxes that have gone to Social Security? A lot higher than you think. Rental income is also treated, if it's ordinary income and it's taxed to you, then it's treated as provisional income. Remember, any taxable income. I work a job, it's provisional income.
Anything that's considered on that adjustable gross income is going to be brought
Correct.
into this for that formula.
Yeah, because modified adjusted gross income and adjusted gross income, the only difference between that is an M. I mean, for the most part, from gross income to adjusted gross income, it doesn't take a lot to get there. So whatever your adjusted gross income is, for the most part, that's going to be, then you have to add in your tax, the tax-free and 1/2 of your Social Security benefit. But for the most part, your modified adjusted gross income that's the number they're going to use. So rental income falls into that number? Yes. So then we have R&Ds, right? Danny, we've so much law changes, the Cure Act, we're still up in the air with the required minimum distribution. So you have to remember that you used to have to start taking from your IRAs, your required minimum distributions at 70.5. Then a couple of years ago, the age was increased to 72. New legislation raises it to 73 starting this year. So again, we help people figure those out. But then you think you have all your income figured out, and then you have to take your required minimum distribution. So if you don't plan ahead or understand, these RMDs can bump you into a higher tax bracket, right? And this is what we said. So in addition to having to pay the income tax on the RMD, you pay more tax on your Social Security benefits. So keep in mind, the longer this goes out, because there's also out there, there's a sort of a phase in, but eventually you all have to take required minimum distributions until age 75. But is that a good idea? Should you let all that money sit there for that long? They got to look at the math, because maybe you should start draining your IRA, because depending on how large your RMDs are, you might be paying more on Social Security taxes. It's not doing you any good, right? So this is what we talk, right, Danny? So you gotta understand how RMDs and Social Security income work together. Everything affects. It's like a big current, right? Everything touches something else when it comes to Social Security income.
Well, I think this is a dance that we deal with often, right? We figure out distribution strategies. So the one thing that's really important leading up to Social Security is, where are you accumulating assets? So like the things you mentioned earlier, Rich, the Roth, the tax-free type of income that you could have from potentially cash value life insurance policies. Are you utilizing those properly? But then how do you unwind it all? And I think that's what people struggle with. Number one, it's difficult, right? You've always been an accumulator. Now you're supposed to become a distributor. But also, it is that fine line of having to worry about IRMA charges, those Medicare premiums, the bumps that we're going to talk about here in a bit. Also the Social Security taxation. What does that look like? So, we typically encourage our clients to take it prior to 73, just because, that old school conventional wisdom is not as good as it used to be, especially in this environment where we've got a debt ceiling debacle once again in front of us. They're continuing to spend more money. The government is. This tax code expires at the end of 2025, so we get into 2026. Taxes are going to bump up a little bit. Brackets are going to compress. That's going to be where we say, hey, we know some hypotheticals. We know what will happen if this sunsets. Then you got thinking, what are the hypotheticals? What do they do with taxes longer term to, really to help make sure that, they have the cash flow and revenue to continue to spend the money that the government does, unfortunately.
Yeah. So keep this in mind. How do you head off these taxes? And we just brought this up. Danny brought up something very important. The mindset of Wall Street and the mindset you have been told and has been put into your brain is accumulation mindset, putting money into accounts to grow over time but no one ever talks about, well, what happens when I have to go to the other side of this? I always call it the tool time effect, right? Tim Allen or his neighbor Wilson. And Wilson's always looking over the fence like this. He's looking into Tim Allen's yard, right? Wilson's got a different perspective than Tim Allen, who's got a young family. Tim's in accumulation mode. Wilson's in distribution mode. You got to cross that fence to change your mindset and understand distribution taxes. So that takes some time. Just so you know, at RIAadvisors.com, we have financial guides. And there, you put your information in there. These are free. There's no obligation. No one's going to sell you anything. We have a very complete survival guide of retirement income that you might find very, very helpful. It's comprehensive. It covers soup to nuts, what you need to know about getting the Wilson mindset. But one of the things you might do is, well, I might convert to Roth IRA, generates tax-free, right? Maybe I delay Social Security until age 70. That's not the main reason to delay it, but maybe I do that. There are ways to do this. I draw down IRAs beforehand, like we just mentioned. I want to take money out, and I don't want the government to tell me to take the money out of this big bucket of money. I'm going to start taking it down aggressively and plan it and tax time it myself. So when RMDs come, my IRA is smaller. These are different things you have to keep in mind as you work with your tax specialist through this process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it goes a little bit against conventional wisdom in many ways, but this is something that I think is very beneficial if used properly. If you know your numbers and you get this right, I think you're going to save. You'll find you save a ton of money long term. And so certainly something we encourage everyone to address. So talking about important legislation, you talked a little bit about it. Rich, the Secure Act in 2019, RMDs at 72 can contribute to the IRA after 70 and a half. And then new rules for IRA beneficiaries. So these new rules were specifically not for spousal beneficiaries, but for non-spousal beneficiaries. And they're still trying to unwind and figure out what all the legislation means. They promised us they'd have it by the end of the year last year in 2022. They're still working on it. Secure Act 2.0 actually came out, and they raised that RMD age by 1 year to 73. And then many other provisions affecting retirement savings, which we're going to talk a little bit more about here in just a bit. But there's a lot of stuff out there that's floating around, Rich, and I'm anxious to see what actually gets passed.
We're still not done yet
on a lot of it.
Yeah, we're still not done yet, and there's some legislation we need to know, especially if, for example, say you are the owner of a non-spousal inherited IRA, or say you're, like in my case, my daughter, who's the beneficiary of mine, she's a non-spouse beneficiary. Her rules have changed on how she needs to take the money. And depending upon when I leave and move on to some other pastures, she also, if I'm taking distributions, will she have to continue to take what I was taking, sort of required minimum distributions? The IRS is all messed up with this. That's the official term, messed up. So we still don't know, but there's still going to be a lot of changes that your financial partner is going to have to keep abreast of when it comes to retirement legislation. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of moving parts. So let's get into those Medicare premiums and what that looks like. Actually got a nice little favor here this last year where we didn't see Medicare premiums jump up. It actually came down a bit. So Medicare premiums for 2023, your Part B. Part A, that's your hospitalization. You've already paid into that. Part B is what most people are concerned with and where we see the biggest jumps. So currently $164.90 a month. But you could have to pay more because of what we call IRMA, and that is going to be the amount over certain thresholds. And we're going to get into that here in a couple of slides. But talk about the hold harmless provision, Rich, in regard to cost of living adjustments and Medicare Part B premiums.
Well, so, and this is where a lot of times for our clients, it's decoupled because generally speaking, if you're on Social Security, most people have Part B premiums deducted from their Social Security benefit. Except when you're age 70, right? Because if I'm age 70 and taking Social Security, I'm going to be taking Medicare most likely beforehand, before I take my Social Security benefit. Or maybe I'm still working. You know, a lot of times it's still working, Danny, where everything's sort of happening at age 70 because we have people that are working longer and also waiting to take Social Security, but they also may not have been, if they're on a qualified plan, a creditable plan, as we call it, for Part B, they don't have to pay those premiums. They're getting healthcare insurance through their employer. So, but if you are on Social Security, have your Medicare Part B premium deducted, there's something called the hold harmless provision. That keeps your check from going down if the cost of living adjustment doesn't cover the rise in Part B premium. So this year, we had Social Security COLA was 8.7%, and Part B premium went down. So that means the COLA more than covered the increase in premiums. So the hold harmless provision didn't apply. And there was a period of time, Danny, where that was locked in. For those people were locked in on premium for Part B, and people that had that decoupled where they were paying their, they were taking Social Security later and paying Medicare Part B, they were getting the increases because of this hold harmless. I mean, eventually it all catches up. But people who have Part B coming out of their Social Security, one of the common complaints they have is, well, yeah, boy, I got a cost of living adjustment, but my Medicare Part B premium went up by X percent. So there goes. I don't have it anymore. I didn't get really any cost of living adjustment. It's sort of washed out, right? The increase in one and the increase in the other, it wiped out the benefit of the cost of living adjustment. It got eaten up by the Part B premium. So it was nice to see the Part B premium come down for once, and that was because of changes in pricing of an Alzheimer's dementia drug that was like $56,000 a dose, something insane like that. So
yeah, no, it's pretty wild. So I mean, it actually came down pretty nice. I mean, from 170 to 164, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I don't
compared to
see
what
that
we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that this year. You're going to see an adjustment in that. Matter of fact, it'll probably start by 2025. This is just my own opinion. The cost of living adjustments will be pretty much eaten up by the Medicare premiums. So you'll be in the great wasteland of COLA probably in the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
So this is what a lot of people
talk about
do.
that income related, monthly adjustment. Go for it, Rich.
Well, this is something, Danny, we talk about with clients because they don't realize that this income-related monthly adjustment, or IRMA, is the extra premium you pay if your modified adjusted gross income exceeds certain thresholds. So in 2023, the first threshold is $97,000. Single, married, or married filing separately, up from $91,000 last year. That's good. Married couples, the first threshold is $194,000. It was $182,000. So again, modified adjusted gross income is going to include your adjusted gross income plus tax exempt interest, right? So remember, your premium each year is based on the tax return you filed 2 years ago. So if you're on Medicare, your 2023 premium is based on the income you reported in 2021. Now, some people will say, well, gosh, Rich, Danny, I mean, I was still working in 2021. I got a severance package. I got a once in a lifetime kind of benefit that that's not going to happen anymore. I had a change, I had a transition. Okay. Well, guess what? You can appeal. In other words, if you reported high income in 2021 and you have since retired, you can appeal the higher premium. One-time capital gain is not going to be grounds for appeal, right? So if you have high income because people will come to me and go, hey, I just sold farmland in 2021. I can fill out that form. No, that was an investment property. That's different, right? Or I made a business sale. No. But say I had a life-changing event. I had something that I went up, and the form is SSA-44 that you're able to complete. So most people will be able to qualify into the events that you check the box. A severance package that I will no longer have, something along those lines. If it's a long-term investment, capital gains tax, I had Apple stock in a brokerage account. I finally decided to sell it in 2021. That's not going to work. But if it was work-related, I got my severance. I was working and I was making $200,000 a year. Now I'm making 50, 40, whatever it is. You can fill out that form. And actually the form is not difficult. It's a couple of pages and it's real easy. It's real easy. Actually, it's one of the easiest forms I've seen that the Social Security Administration provides.
Yeah, it really is. It's 2 pages. Go to SSA/44. So it's pretty simple.
Yep.
Well, here we go. Here's these monthly premiums for Part B and D, including real adjusted amounts. So this gives you guys a little bit of an idea as far as what income looks like, how much you would actually have to pay an additional premium. So Part B, IRMA paid to Medicare. This is if you made between, if you're single, $97, $1 to $123,000, married, filing jointly, $194 to $246. You'd pay an additional $65.90 a piece if you're married. So that's for both of you, not just for one of you. So your premiums would therefore go from $164.90 to $230.80. Now, you would also have your Medicare Part D premiums increase as well. Part D premiums aren't set in stone like Part B is, because those can change a little bit based on the plan you actually select. That's your prescription coverage, but usually it's between 30 and 40 bucks, and you'll see that the amount that jumps up is, it gets up there as well if your income really goes up.
Yeah, people don't realize that there's an IRMA on Part D just because it's Part B's little cousin, because it's prescription drug and the premium is smaller. So people go, oh, okay, I got paid an extra $5.
Yeah.
So, okay. So again, the form number for your IRMA appeal is SSA-44. And someone asked a really good question here, Danny, about, can a Roth conversion, say I do what because we are big advocates for Roth conversion. So someone goes ahead in 2021 and does a $100,000 Roth conversion. We run the numbers. Is it beneficial longer term? Does it save you actual taxes and IRMA? But no, it is not a qualifying event for SSA 44. Keep this in mind. If it's any kind of investment income, capital gain, like think about dividends, think about a sale of a property or a sale of a stock. Those are not going to count. If it's more work related, hey, I got 6 months severance pay. I'm not going to have that. It's different. But anything you do like you would do in a normal investment environment is not going to qualify under that SSA-44.
Medicare date. This is confusing for a lot, right, Rich?
Yeah. Before we get into that, keep this in mind. One way Danny and we talk about the stealth taxes. These are stealth taxes. Taxation on Social Security, higher premiums. These are backdoor taxes. These are back pocket. Like someone comes by, picks your wallet, takes the money, puts it back, and goes. Unlike federal taxes, which is right in your face, like the federal income tax, the one you know. But you got to take into account the full picture of taxation in retirement and when you're in distribution mode by looking at these different charges. Now, what's nice is, remember, this is a 2-year look back. So say now in 2022, 2021, I had all this stuff going on. I lost my job or whatever it was. And then 2022, I fall back into this groove. Well, in 2020, right? In 2024, then my premium, I'm going to lose some of that IRMA too. So it's not locked, because people say, oh my gosh, once it goes up, Danny, it's locked. No, it's not locked. That IRMA going away, being added on, getting into the second tier, that all changes depending on what you're doing with your money. That's why you got a tax plan, tax strategize what you're going to do. Because even when you do Roth conversion, it'll, like when our numbers show in our analysis, oh gosh, your IRMA is going to spike. Your IRMA is going to spike for like 2 or 3 years. But here's the goal of the program. The goal of what we're trying to do is keep your IRMA level through the lifetime of retirement. So we're going to hurt you now in a good way, and then you're going to feel better. You know, that it's like in the Three Stooges, like their anesthesia was they'd hit you in the head with a hammer, but then you're out, right? So we're going to hit you in the head with a hammer. It's not going to feel good because you're going to pay more in IRMA. But then if we're correct, that IRMA is going to fall. Now, most people, a lot of people, well, probably a lot of people on this Lunch and Learn, a lot of people I see who I know on this Lunch and Learn, they're never going to fall into the base. They're always going to be at what I call base plus one. They're going to be at that next tier because they have money in IRAs and they're going to take money out of those IRAs to live. So that's going to force them to be at that next tier, you know? So, but we got to be careful of going up again, keep going up that scale. And what we're worried about is that the adjusted gross income starts to drop down. So more and more people fall into IRMA because Medicare's got some funding issues. So we're going to see. So yeah, but now we're going to talk about dates that you need to watch. The Medicare enrollment process is like a potpourri of dates that most likely you're going to mess up. What's the average premium penalty for late enrollment, Danny?
30%.
30%.
That means 3 years because 10% for every 12 months you delay to file. And a lot of times it's just misinformation or didn't realize they needed to, which I find sometimes I think it's really hard to believe because I see how many once you get close to about 64, you start getting all the mailers from AARP and all these other insurance carriers trying to sell you supplemental or Medicare Advantage. So I mean, you've got to know something's up. But unfortunately, it's a lot more people that fail to file properly than you would think. I mean, it's a pretty big number, Rich.
It is. So you have a Medicare disadvantage. I'm sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Medicare Advantage disenrollment period from January 1st to March 31st. So if I want to go back to original Medicare, but remember, I better have another supplemental policy lined up, right? Because I'm going to have gaps. Remember what Medicare is. Medicare is buying a piece of Swiss cheese. When I buy original Medicare, A and B, I bought Swiss cheese. And what does Swiss cheese have? Holes. I got to get coverage to cover the holes. Preferably prosciutto or something else. But you're going to have to get something to cover those holes, right? But unless you're applying during your Medigap open enrollment period, that's generally the first 6 months after enrolling in Part B. They don't have to take you. So in other words, Medigap is what we usually recommend, right? So to get into a Medigap policy, that could be a little bit tough outside of an enrollment period because of the pre-existing condition. January 1st again through March 31st is also what we call Medicare general enrollment. So this is for people who never signed up for Medicare when they turned 65 or they left their employer plan, okay? And if you do sign up for Medicare at this time, your coverage is going to start the month after enrollment. And now there are more dates as we move on the slide. So you're going to know the annual open enrollment period for Medicare, October 15th to December 7th, because you're going to see Joe Namath, Jimmy J.J. Walker, and Bill William Shatner trying to sell you Medicare insurance. That's when you know you're in the throes of it. right? So in September, you're also going to receive information from your current plan about their offerings for next year. Very important for you to read through that, because there could be a change that you're not happy with. Your premiums are going up. Your coverage is going to change. There are new plans in your area. So if you currently have a Medicare Advantage plan, you'll want to see how it's going to change. If you have just original Medicare, and what we mean by original Medicare is A and B, you want to examine your D or drug plan and look at other plans. I have people that have prescription D plans, and I tell them, and we tell them, Danny, every year, do your homework. You have the ability to switch. Maybe you can save some money. Maybe there's a new drug that's costlier on the current policy you have versus another. So you, with a D plan, should be doing homework between October 15th and December 7th to make sure that Medicare Part D plan is still working for you.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of money left on the table by not making changes. So make sure that you are shopping your plans annually. I know it's easy once you get it set up. It's easy to set it and forget it. But the average cost that people are paying in addition can add up to several $1,000s. So you want to make sure you're shopping those plans. So big topic here, future Social Security. All the headline news, every year we get a new number. Hey, we've gone down another year. We've extended it by another year. Here's how much the benefits are going to be dropped if this comes to fruition. And unfortunately, this has been highly political. Number one, there's no politician in their right mind that wants to make the changes that needs to be done, because it's unelectable, right? You see what's going on in France right now by raising the pension age a little bit. They're rioting in the streets. Now, granted, I don't think that's what's necessary to fix this old age survivor disability insurance trust, but things will need to be done that people won't like. Like you mentioned earlier, Rich, you eliminate the cap on what's taxable for income base for Social Security. That's an easy way to fix it. You could raise the age by just a little bit. I'm not sure that's what they will do, especially we're seeing, longevity kind of creeps up, creeps back down. I mean, there's some easy ways to fix this.
Danny, it's so crazy. This has become such a political football, and I know it's always a political football, but now everything's like a political football on fire. It's like a political meteor. Everything's a meteor, like that's going to wipe everybody out. You don't have to do much to get this system aligned properly, right? So the trust fund's got 2.8 trillion right now. People will say, well, it's not funded. It's not a lockbox. It's not this. Well, listen, it's Treasury securities in there. If you believe in the United States and you buy Treasury securities, then these are Treasury securities. So as baby boomers start retiring, these trust fund assets are going to gradually be drawn down. So then you get into the long-term projection and see over the next 75 years, you're going to have cost exceed income. So right now you have 100% of, you can pay, the system can provide 100% of promised benefits until 2035. If nothing is done, to reform it, then income is going to cover just 80% of promised benefits. That's where you are right now. This is fixable. This is not hard, right? They demonize everybody for raising retirement age, but right now, if you took the retirement age, the full retirement age, which is 67, and you just moved it out to 68, for anybody to say born after 1974, you would take that benefit, it would go up to 90% of promised benefits. And people are working longer. That's a tweak, right? There are tweaks that need to be done to get this system solvent. If we get people that actually go through a better demographic wave, we go through, say, an intelligent immigration wave, whatever it is, we have people coming in and working, they're going to pay more into payroll tax. The one thing I just want people to understand, and Danny, you do too, and we do as a firm, is don't make an emotional decision. People think that if they take it early or take it now, it can't their benefit won't be cut. Like if I locked in, they can't cut it. Well, they're the government. Let them do whatever the heck they want. If they say, listen, your check was $1,000 and now it's going to be 800, what are you going to do about it? Right?
Yeah.
So make the right decision, because too many people depend on Social Security. This is their pension. That's not what it was designed to do, but now it is. So you are going to have a lot of, and I don't say this, and Danny knows I say this all the time, and I don't mean it flippant. I mean that you're going to be tripping over people in the street, older people. Okay, and older people are crabby. So you got to be careful. I'm getting there. So you got to be understanding.
You're getting there, or are you already there?
I'm already there. I'm not in the Lance yard yet, but I'm getting there. So you got to look at this calmly. We study the trust fund. We study this process. We look at the legislation out there. There doesn't need to be a lot done to change it, right? So the next slide is about what does it take, right? Social Security system is not an imminent danger, but it's just a math problem, and it's increasing revenues, cutting benefits, combination of the two. So there's a few ideas that have been proposed. One is once you increase, say you're currently at 160,200 in Social Security earnings. One way is to raise the cap or eliminate it. Okay, but then there's a problem with that, because there's an intelligent way to do this. I don't know what it is, but there's an intelligent way to raise this earnings cap and yet not totally, mess up the benefit for higher income workers. There is a way to do it, and it doesn't have to be dramatic. But there's
well,
a
I
way.
think that may be where they were initially talking about, Rich, where they say, okay, we're going to stop at 160, 200, and then at 300 or 400,000, we would begin to tax again. I'm not sure how they got to those numbers, but I'm sure they've got a break-even point somewhere that makes it a little bit more fair, even though we know it's already not at the moment.
But
I don't
keep
think you're
in
going to make it
mind,
any better, right?
no matter what you do, as a percentage of your retirement income for a higher income worker, Social Security is going to be a lower percentage of their income than
Correct.
someone who made the median earnings. So in some ways, when you raise the payroll tax, say you're going to do 400,000 or more, you are essence as a high income earner subsidizing lower income workers. And that's the beef. Now, everybody has a different view on this. Some people say, well, at least I know where these payroll taxes go. At least I know, because with taxes, what we pay now, who knows where the money goes, right? You just go, oh my gosh, I'm going to write this check. Where's the money go? I'll probably hate where it's going to go. At least I know that if you're going to be paying into the system, people need it to survive, and especially the elderly. And we should be taking care of our older clients, so our older people. So, maybe that's a good thing. Unless we initiate the Soil and Green initiative, and that might come eventually. Look up Soil and Green if you haven't watched that movie from the 70s, Danny. It's a good one. So that's one way. The other way is to raise the full retirement age, right? We have full retirement age of 66 for people born between 43 and 54, 67 for people born in 1960 or later. So go ahead and raise the retirement age. But you can't raise, here's the problem. You can't raise the full retirement age to 70 because you have a lot of manual, people that work hard physical labor. Unlike some of your last year, my great grandfather, and you're 82 years old and he was still building bathrooms and stuff, right? Not well, you don't want to use it, but he's building it. I'm saying is, 70 might be too much of a stretch for a mandatory a full retirement age, because some people are just going to be too old. They can't do what they were doing before. So, but maybe again, 67 to 68 makes a difference. Little tweaks make a difference. So I tell everybody, don't panic. Maybe they're going to change the benefit formula so that future increases happen at a slower pace. Changing the formula for cost of living adjustments. There are a lot of things we can do. I understand our government's totally dysfunctional and they don't want to work on anything, but this is important. because what's the stat, Danny, on how many people survive? How many people need Social Security just to survive?
Oh man, well, more than half of people retirees right now rely on Social Security for more than half their retirement income, and a quarter rely on it for 90% of their income in retirement. I mean, so the numbers are astronomical. Like you said, you'd be stepping over people in the street if they went in and reduced benefits. We'd be in trouble.
We would be. We would be. And again, this wasn't what it was designed to be. It wasn't what it was designed to be. But that's what it turned to.
All right, guys, got a handful more slides. I know we tried to keep these in an hour, but also want to get to your questions as well. So we're going to talk about some claiming strategies here. You know, a little bit about, you know, you talked about this already. Will Congress adjust Social Security this year? There is a Social Security 2100 Act that may come to a vote from Democratic John Larson. And so I think this will be interesting to see if this actually comes to pass. I would say it doesn't. They've been trying to push something through each and every year. I think what they will likely do, and it's unfortunate, they'll kick the can down the road right till we get in that, you know, the imminent danger portion of it. You know, the nuclear lights are flashing, everybody's freaking out. And then they're gonna say, okay, we've got to address it. It'd be better if they did it now. I wish they would. I just don't have a whole lot of confidence that they will. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
So
lots of things. Yeah. Again, keep in mind, we'll keep you abreast. Listen to the radio show. We'll have a podcast coming out in the next few months. This may be one of our first shows that Danny and I do. Just we run the numbers for you. Someone will run the numbers. Your advisor will run the numbers. Don't make an emotional decision. That's the best thing I can tell you.
Yep, absolutely. So claiming strategies. Let's talk about what you can and can't do, Rich.
Well, you could do a lot of things. Some things you can't, but the claiming strategies are a tricky thing because if you're alone, it's not that difficult. But if you're married, you got to think about you're not making, or listen, we have older clients having younger children. So survivor benefits. I mean, family dynamics are changing. Right? I mean, who's that actor that keeps Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp could finally marry his 21, or Leonardo DiCaprio can finally marry one of his 25-year-old girlfriends and have babies. Survivor benefits are going to be important, right? We got to look at these things. So there was a strategy called file and suspend. That was where a high earning spouse files for the benefits. They immediately suspend them. That opens up the record and it allows the lower earning spouse to claim that. And then in November 2015, they got rid of that. That was April 29th of 2016. So there was something called this file and suspend that we don't have anymore.
No longer here. We'll move on.
Yeah, move on. It just that more people bring it up. So we're like, yeah, it doesn't exist. Then there is other strategy, claim now, claim more later. If you were born before January 2nd, 1954, you're grandfathered into this strategy. We run these numbers to determine whether you're not. It sort of acts like a file and suspend. You can, for example, receive a spousal benefit while your own benefit delays credit. So, you know, a lot of these spousal benefit loopholes have closed.
They're eliminating them.
Yeah, they are. If you go to the next slide, you'll see, but it's still possible for a lower earning spouse to receive 50% of the higher earning spouse primary insurance amount if someone's own benefit's lower. So say Danny's the higher earning spouse, his wife Michelle isn't, can she claim on his benefit? But even if the lower earning spouse is claiming the spousal benefit before her full retirement age, her spousal benefit's going to be cut. You know, your spouse also needs to hit full retirement age to get some of the benefits on your record. It's just not like, oh, I'm 70 years old. My spouse is 62 years old. So now I'm going to take Social Security. And she goes ahead and goes, well, now you opened up where I can get my spousal benefit. She's still younger than full retirement age. She's going to get a cut in that benefit. So what I'm trying to say through all of this junk is when you make a claiming decision, you are cutting or adding benefits to a lower earning spouse. If I have a lower earning spouse and I am older than my spouse, then, and I'm a male and women outlive us, then I am probably going to wait to age 70 to claim so that my lower earning spouse gets a higher survivor benefit, because it's not just spousal benefit, it's survivor benefit. Okay, so this is a real case, right? And this is a common one. Divorced people. They don't know a lot of times they can claim a spousal benefit off their ex-spouses. Now, not everyone can do this, and it is being phased out a little bit, but some people can do it. And some people have more than one ex-spouse, and they may be claiming off the wrong ex-spouse. So we can help you understand that you are still, depending on criteria. And listen, your ex-spouse isn't going to go, hi, former spouse, you're supposed to get part of my spousal benefit, even though we're divorced. Matter of fact, I had one person call me and say, I got to find a way to make sure my ex-wife never finds out that she can claim on my benefit. I'm like, what do you want me to do? I can't do that. That's not within my fiduciary responsibility to.
Yeah, but it makes no difference either way, because they're not actually taking away from each other. And I think that's the one, sometimes they, a little vengeful, right? And they say, well, I'm going to get everything I can. I'm taking that from her, from him, and I'm going to go ahead and start taking. They'll never know, and it doesn't impact their benefit. But you need to make sure you understand what you can take.
Social Security is such an emotional hotbed, whether you're married, divorced, it's people get all crazy when it comes to this. Most important is to make the good decision. We can help you do that. And we're not going to go on to any more of these because everybody's still eating lunch. Most important for you is, again, is make sure you're maximizing your benefits. Understanding your life expectancy, right? Social Security is longevity insurance. Don't worry about break-even analysis, which I got to get everything out of the system that I put in. What you have, because most likely you're not considering your spouse and survivor benefit. You're just considering your benefit. You're not considering the joint benefit, which is a significant number. So what are some of the questions we got, Danny?
Yes, let's jump right in. So let's see here. Any thoughts on whether they will means test Social Security benefits for those that have other pension income sources? They kind of do that already now with the government offset provision. So if you do, depending on where the pension comes from, if it comes from a state agency or like teachers retirement here in Texas or in most states, that'll actually reduce benefits. They also have, you almost have a means testing in other ways in the sense of what is taxable. So, and then with Medicare, that is certainly means tested. Yep. Because they're already doing it, is what I'm getting.
Yeah, you're getting means tested. Listen, your percentage. Look at Social Security as a percentage of your total retirement income, and not that even for higher, say, people that have higher income in retirement, it doesn't mean that Social Security hurts. It still helps a lot, right? But your percentage of that Social Security income to the amount of income you're bringing in retirement is this. Someone who's making this, their percentage is a lot bigger. Like they're getting more out of the system than you are. That's a way. But actually, there's been talks about taking the government pension offset away. So this means testing question comes up sometimes in legislation, but I'll tell you something. I think the lobbyists, the government insiders are, the ones who are going to make a lot of money. I think that they're the ones that press not to do this. So I don't see it right now. It's not even part of the fix in Social Security to means test it. How they might means test you, again, is to Danny's point, raising your IRMA charges, the back door. They might use the back pocket creatively to test you. Maybe they tweak the thresholds on how much Social Security is taxed. That's the way they'll do it. But they're not going to go rightfully take the benefit away.
So let's jump into some additional questions here. So are Medicare premiums considered as a before tax deduction? If you itemize your taxes and your deductions, you typically can, but that number's gotten so high. We're seeing a lot of people, especially in retirement, that they're not able to do so anymore. I mean, you're looking at married filing jointly, $27,700. It's a huge amount. Now, That may change in 2026 if we just revert back to the old tax code. Married, or single filers are $13,850. That's a pretty big number there.
It is.
We already talked about, does Roth conversion qualify for an IRMA appeal? No, that does not. That form is SSA-44 if you do want to appeal. And any type of that distributions or, the income is going to count towards that. So be careful with that. Now, here's another one, Rich. Please be sure to distinguish between pre-full retirement age, full retirement age, and how waiting to 70 takes Social Security affects. To take Social Security affects the surviving spouse. When the person who took Social Security at 70 passes away, any help would be worth hearing.
Well,
now, this is a good one.
Yeah.
So assuming that the person that passed away was the high income earner of the two, if you are receiving half of those benefits or half of what they receive at full retirement age. In fact, I had a question this morning about if the breadwinner waits to delay until 70, what will his spouse receive when she begins her benefits taking the spousal benefit? Well, you would receive, while that spouse is still alive, half of the full retirement age amount. So what they would receive at, say, 67 versus them waiting at 70. Now, when they pass, though, you'll receive the amount that they were currently receiving. So you'll get that larger amount of them delaying and getting the 8% per year by delaying until 70. You'll receive that full amount, which goes back to what you were mentioning earlier, Rich, why it's so important to make this as a decision as a couple to make sure you're not leaving any benefits on the table, but also providing your spouse, who may not have as much in Social Security benefits as you, the larger amount when you do go.
I don't know how this will be effective in the future, Danny, because you have more. It's like, will we have lower earning spouses in the future just based on things, the way culture is going and all that, or do both? We have spouses that'll both max it. They'll both max their benefit, and then it's not going to matter. But yes, you want to be cognizant. Like, say you're 68 years old and you're not doing well. You're 69, you're not doing well, and you haven't claimed Social Security. Would you claim it? Or would you just say, I'm not going to claim it? If my spouse was a lower earning spouse, then I probably won't. Because then she's going to get, say I pass away at 69 or 70, she's going to get that benefit. Or maybe I started at 69, but she's going to get my 69 benefit. I'm still going to get an 8% delayed retirement credit from age 67 or 66 plus to for retirement age. But maybe the longer I wait, and there's no benefit, by the way, because people ask the question all the time, is there a benefit to waiting till after 70? There's absolutely no benefit. Whether you're working, you're not going to accrue anymore, you're done. Take the benefit. So the longer you wait, the higher it's going to be for a lower earning spouse on the survivor side. And if that's what you want, then that's what you'll do.
A lot of these questions some of these I think we answered throughout this as we've kind of progressed. But one was, how does Social Security and Medicare work for a spouse who stayed at home to raise a family, so they're a homemaker, and do not have enough credit, so they don't have that full 40 credits? Do they still get benefits based on the spouse's credits? Yes, that's where you get the half of what they receive at full retirement age, or if you took it early, then they would also get a reduced benefit based on what you took as well.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. Another big reason why you would want to delay, especially if you had somebody who did not have the full 40 credits. We do see people that after the kids get out of the house, they go back to work just to bolster their own Social Security benefits. That may not be a bad idea depending on how long you have to work.
Well, Dave, keep in mind, a lot of people don't realize when Social Security benefit first came out, there was no spousal benefit. They had to add that later on, because then they realized, wait a minute. We have a spouse that never worked, right? I don't know how many years later. I can't remember if it was 2 years later, 3 years later. Can't remember. But that spousal benefit wasn't part of the original process. But then you realize, oh my gosh, when the breadwinner goes, that's it. So yes, your spouse will still qualify. Yeah.
Yeah, so lots of good questions today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you do have a question, you want us to spend some time one-on-one, have somebody from the team reach out to you, please fill out the survey at the end of this. If you have other topics you'd like Rich and I to address, go to realinvestmentadvice.com or just put it in the survey. Let us know what you'd like for us to cover here in the coming months. We're happy to do so. We're typically doing about one of these every month or so, give or take, sometimes a little bit more frequently. We may do market updates with Lance when markets are kind of volatile, which, Lord knows that's probably coming, as we've seen here recently, lots of volatility. But this is one of the things that we, have a high conviction in making sure that surrounding financial planning, you guys make really good, sound, educated decisions on things that you can control. And so this is one of those. Now let's keep in mind, we can only control so much, but we want to make sure you guys are armed with the right tools. So thank you once again for joining us. If you have questions, go to realinvestmentadvice.com. Go to YouTube, The Real Investment Show. Go subscribe, like it. We do send out daily updates there as well. And thank you again once for joining us. Y'all have a good day.